You are being watched. Right now, always. Every gesture catalogued, every word weighed, every moment of weakness stored for later use against you. This is not paranoia. It's the architecture of the modern world, where visibility has been rebranded as virtue and concealment as cowardice. They tell you to be authentic, to share your journey, to let people in. What they don't tell you is that every piece of yourself you offer becomes a weapon in someone else's hands. The ancient strategists understood something we've forgotten. Power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't explain, justify, or seek permission. Real power moves in the dark, where intentions remain hidden and vulnerabilities stay protected. While everyone else performs their inner lives for an audience, the truly dangerous ones have learned to disappear in plain sight. You have been conditioned to leak information, to overshare, to broadcast your plans, your pain, your philosophy. And with every reveal, you paint a target on your back, because the world doesn't reward transparency, it exploits it. There are 9 specific things you must never do in public if you want to maintain power, status, and respect. 9 behaviors that transform you from an open book into an unreadable force. Drawing from Stoic philosophy, 19th century strategy, and psychological warfare, this is your guide to becoming strategically invisible. Stop asking for permission. Stop seeking validation. It's time to go dark. Comment: shadow mode activated if you're done being readable. Somewhere along the way, we were sold a lie. That vulnerability is courage. That sharing your struggles makes you strong. That the person who opens up the most wins the most respect. This is the rhetoric of a culture that profits from your exposure. Social media platforms monetize your confessions. Self-help gurus package your pain into content. And the people around you, colleagues, competitors, even friends, they're taking notes. Every time you reveal a fear, they learn how to destabilize you. Every time you broadcast a plan, they position themselves to block it. Every time you display an emotion, they understand how to manipulate you. The Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while keeping his inner world locked away. Epictetus taught freedom through emotional concealment. Seneca wielded influence by saying less, not more. These weren't cold men, they were strategic ones. They understood that the person who reveals nothing controls everything. You've been descending into vulnerability your entire life. Each confession, each public complaint, each display of doubt has weakened your position. But the descent ends here. What follows are 9 principles that will pull you back into the shadows, where power actually lives. Principle 1. Never reveal your next move. The moment you announce your plans, you invite interference, doubt, sabotage. The universe itself seems to conspire against the goal you've spoken aloud. This isn't mysticism, it's strategy. When you tell people what you're going to do, you give them time to prepare, to position themselves in opposition, to steal your idea, to tell you why it won't work. You activate their insecurities, their jealousies, their need to feel superior by predicting your failure. And even if they wish you well, their expectations become a weight you carry, a performance you must now deliver. Sun Tzu wrote that all warfare is based on deception. The general who telegraphs his strategy loses before the battle begins. The entrepreneur who announces the startup gets copied. The artist who shares the unfinished work gets critiqued into paralysis. Silence is the ultimate competitive advantage. Marcus Aurelius advised us to confine ourselves to the present, not because the future doesn't matter, but because broadcasting it weakens it. Your plans are fragile in their early stages. They need protection, not exposure. They need the quiet space to develop away from the judgment, the advice, the interference of others. The powerful move in silence. They build in private. They execute without warning. And when the world finally sees what they've done, it's too late to stop them. The opportunity to interfere has passed. So keep your ambitions close. Let your results speak. Let others wonder what you're working on while you're already 10 steps ahead. Ambiguity creates fear. Certainty creates targets. Stay ambiguous. Principle 2. Never complain in public. Complaining is a confession of powerlessness. Every time you voice dissatisfaction, you announce to the world that something outside your control is controlling you, and predators, whether they're competitors, manipulators, or simply opportunists, they hear that announcement loud and clear. Seneca observed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But when you complain publicly, you don't just suffer in your imagination. You recruit others into that suffering. You create an audience for your weakness. And worse, you give them a script for how to break you. They learn exactly which buttons to push, which circumstances destabilize you, which frustrations render you ineffective. The person who never complains becomes a mystery. Are they unbothered, unbreakable, simply better at handling adversity? It doesn't matter. The perception is the same. They are not a victim, and people do not prey on those who refuse to signal vulnerability. This doesn't mean you suppress legitimate grievances or ignore real problems. It means you handle them privately, with precision, with people who can actually help, not with an audience seeking entertainment from your struggle. Stoicism teaches that complaining changes nothing except your reputation. When you stop complaining, something shifts. You're no longer participating in the collective theatre of victimhood. You're no longer bonding over shared misery. Instead, you become the person others watch, wondering how you stay so composed, so unreactive, so mysteriously unbothered. Turn your suffering inward. Process it. Use it as fuel, but never ever broadcast it. Silence your complaints. Amplify your solutions. Principle 3. Never explain your philosophy. Epictetus said it plainly. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. The moment you start lecturing people about how you live, you become a hypocrite in waiting, because words are cheap and people are watching for the gap between what you preach and what you practice. Every explanation is a defense. Every justification is an apology for who you are. And the person who constantly explains themselves is unconsciously admitting that they need permission to exist as they are. You don't. Your life is not a thesis that requires defending. Think about the people who talk endlessly about their principles, the fitness influencer who lectures about discipline while missing workouts, the entrepreneur who preaches hustle culture while accomplishing nothing, the philosopher who explains Stoicism in 40 tweets but crumbles at the first inconvenience. Their words dilute their credibility. They've confused talking about the path with walking it. Meanwhile, the person who lives their values without announcement becomes magnetic. There's no gap to exploit, no hypocrisy to expose. They simply are what others claim to be, and that silent integrity carries more weight than 1,000 explanations. This ties directly to one of the 48 laws of power. Always say less than necessary. The more you explain, the more common you appear. The less you say, the more profound you seem. Mystery elevates, over-explanation diminishes. So live your philosophy quietly. Let your choices reflect your values. Let others wonder what drives you. And if they ask, smile and say nothing. Your life is the explanation. Principle 4. Never display your emotions. Your face is leaking data. Every expression of frustration, every flash of anger, every visible moment of fear, it's all information your enemies can use. And make no mistake, in a competitive world, everyone is studying you for weaknesses. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly that he had power over his mind, not outside events. The Stoic practices emotional mastery, not because feelings don't matter, but because displaying them hands control to others. When people see you rattled, they know they've found leverage. When they see you angry, they know which buttons to push. When they see you desperate, they know you'll accept bad terms. The unreadable face controls the room. Poker players understand this. Negotiators understand this. Leaders throughout history have understood this. The person whose emotional state remains a mystery cannot be manipulated through emotional contagion. They cannot be destabilized by provocation. They cannot be read and therefore cannot be beaten. This isn't about becoming cold or inhuman. Feel everything, process everything, but do it privately. Your emotions are yours, not public property, not entertainment, not data for others to mine. In private, you can rage, grieve, celebrate, but in public, you wear the mask. The mask isn't dishonesty, it's strategy. It's the armor that protects your inner world from weaponization. And over time, the mask and the face become one. You don't suppress emotion, you master it. You become genuinely unshakable because you've trained yourself not to leak what you're feeling. Master the mask. Guard the data. Stay unreadable. Principle 5. Never ask for permission. Every time you ask for permission, you subordinate yourself. You signal that someone else's approval matters more than your own judgment. And once you establish that dynamic, you're no longer operating from a position of power, you're operating from dependence. Permission-seeking is a habit born from childhood, where authority figures controlled access to everything. But you're not a child anymore. And the people you're asking, bosses, partners, peers, they're not parents. They're players in the same game you are. And when you ask them if you can make a move, you're giving them veto power over your life. The most powerful people don't ask. They inform. They act first and apologize later if necessary, though usually they don't need to apologize because they've already created value that justifies the action. Forgiveness is easier to obtain than permission, and often by the time anyone realizes you didn't ask, you've already succeeded. This doesn't mean recklessness. It means trusting your judgment enough to move without external validation. It means understanding that the person who waits for a green light often waits forever, because those in power benefit from your hesitation. Look at the entrepreneurs who didn't ask investors if their idea was good. They built it and let the results speak. Look at the artists who didn't ask critics for approval. They created and let the work find its audience. Look at the leaders who didn't ask for consensus. They decided and let history judge. Stop asking. Start executing. The world rewards action, not permission slips. Principle 6. Never seek validation. The need for validation is a leash, and whoever holds that leash controls you. When your sense of worth depends on external approval, you become a puppet, dancing to the opinions of others, most of whom don't even know what they want, let alone what's best for you. Validation seeking shows up everywhere. The entrepreneur who needs investors to believe in the idea before they believe in it themselves. The creator who won't publish until everyone says it's good enough. The professional who measures success by titles and recognition rather than actual impact. All of them are giving strangers the power to define their value. The Stoics understood that external validation is external dependency. The moment you need someone else to tell you you're good enough, smart enough, worthy enough, you've handed them control. And people who sense that dependency will exploit it. They'll withhold approval to keep you striving. They'll dangle recognition to keep you compliant. They'll make you perform for scraps of affirmation. Meanwhile, the person who becomes their own measure is ungovernable. They set their own standards. They evaluate their own progress. They know their worth, independent of applause or criticism. And that independence makes them immune to manipulation. This doesn't mean ignoring all feedback. It means filtering feedback through your own judgment, rather than letting it dictate your self-concept. It means building internal validation systems so robust that external opinions become interesting data points, not verdicts on your existence. Become your own authority. Seek improvement, not approval, and watch how much power you reclaim. Principle 7. Never reveal your vulnerabilities. Your vulnerabilities are ammunition, and the moment you hand them to someone, even someone you trust, you're gambling that they'll never use them against you. That's a bet you'll lose more often than you think. People change. Relationships sour. Allies become competitors. The person you confided in during a moment of trust might become the person who exploits that confession during a moment of conflict. And even if they never weaponize it intentionally, they now see you differently. You're no longer the unshakable presence. You're the person with that weakness, that fear, that soft spot. One of the 48 laws of power advises keeping others in suspended terror by cultivating unpredictability. But if people know your vulnerabilities, you become entirely predictable. They know exactly how to destabilize you. They know where to apply pressure. They know which fears to activate. This isn't about pretending to be perfect. It's about protecting your shadow. Everyone has weaknesses. Everyone has fears. But the strategically minded individual keeps those tucked away, visible only to themselves, processed privately, never offered up as proof of authenticity. There's a cultural movement that romanticizes vulnerability as the highest form of courage. But courage isn't exposing your soft underbelly to potential predators. Courage is carrying your burdens without burdening others. It's processing your pain without performing it. It's being human without being an open wound. Guard your shadow. Work on your vulnerabilities in private. Get help if you need it, but from professionals, not from audiences. And never mistake oversharing for intimacy. Protect what can hurt you. Principle 8. Never apologize for your ambition. Ambition makes people uncomfortable. It reminds them of their own complacency. It threatens the social equilibrium where everyone agrees to want small, safe things. And the moment you apologize for wanting more, you're colluding in your own diminishment. The tall poppy syndrome exists across cultures, the tendency to cut down anyone who rises above the average. People will call you arrogant for wanting success, selfish for prioritizing your goals, ruthless for refusing to slow down to their pace. And if you apologize, if you soften your ambition to make them comfortable, you've just confirmed their judgment. You've admitted that wanting more is something to be ashamed of. It's not. The Stoics taught that we should live according to our nature, and if your nature is to build, to achieve, to dominate your field, then apologizing for that is a betrayal of yourself. You don't owe anyone a smaller dream just because yours makes them feel inadequate. When you own your ambition unapologetically, something interesting happens. Some people recoil, let them. They were never going to support you anyway. But others, the ones who also hunger, who also refuse to settle, they recognize you, they gravitate toward you, they want to build alongside you. Your ambition is not a character flaw, it's fuel, It's direction. It's the thing that pulls you out of mediocrity and into significance. So stop downplaying it. Stop cushioning it with false humility. State what you want clearly and pursue it relentlessly. Own your hunger. Principle 9. Never telegraph your discontent. The moment you signal dissatisfaction, you signal intent to leave. And whether it's a job, a relationship, or an alliance, people start preparing for your exit, which usually means replacing you, sidelining you, or preemptively removing you before you can leave on your terms. Think about the employee who starts complaining openly about their role. Management hears it. And even if the complaints are valid, the message received is, this person is already halfway out the door, so they stop investing in that person. They stop offering opportunities. They quietly begin looking for a replacement. And when the employee finally does leave, they're surprised to find they've been strategically sidelined for months. Contrast that with the employee who says nothing, who continues performing at a high level while quietly interviewing elsewhere, building leverage, preparing the next move. Then one day they resign, not with a list of grievances, but with a better offer in hand. They leave on their terms, with their reputation intact, and often with a counter-offer they can either accept or use as further leverage. One of the 48 laws of power teaches us to assume formlessness, to remain so adaptable and unreadable that others can't predict or counter your moves. Telegraphing discontent destroys formlessness. It announces your intentions. It gives others time to prepare defenses. So if you're unhappy, process it privately. Make your moves in silence. Build your exit in the shadows. And when you're ready, strike decisively. Don't complain your way out. Disappear and reappear somewhere better. Strike from the shadows. You've climbed out, from exposure to protection, from readable to unreadable, from apologetic to authoritative. These 9 principles aren't restrictions, they're armor. They're the framework for a life lived beyond manipulation, beyond exploitation, beyond the constant vulnerability of an overshared existence. The world will call you closed off, secretive, calculating. Let them. While they're performing their lives for an audience, you're building in the dark. While they're seeking validation, you're creating value. While they're explaining themselves, you're simply being undeniable, unreadable, unstoppable. The shadow doesn't announce itself. It doesn't justify. It doesn't apologize or seek permission. It moves with precision, strikes with timing, and disappears before anyone understands what happened. This is who you become when you stop leaking power, when you stop handing your enemies the blueprint for your destruction, when you embrace the strategic value of silence. So here's your final instruction, and it's the hardest one. Stay silent about what you've learned here. Don't explain these principles to others. Don't announce your transformation, just embody it. Go dark, stay dark. And watch how the world rearranges itself around your new, unreadable presence. If you're ready to stop leaking power and become unreadable, leave a comment below. Shadow mode activated. And subscribe to the Stoic mode with notifications on, because strategic invisibility is a practice, not a destination. We're building armor, one principle at a time. Thank you for listening. Stay dark.